again, and welcome to another edition of Media Watch. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Bob Anthony.
And I'm Raymond Peterson.
And once again, we're pre-taping on a Thursday prior to our Monday air date. And this is the week of President Trump's address to a joint session of Congress. And turned out to be a not bad speech from the reports that I heard. But I believe they delayed the rolling out of the immigration ban, that very major piece of executive orders that was signed in a rush because the bad guys were going to get in before the toughness set in. That's kind of a paraphrase quote. But they thought the speech went so well, they thought they would just hold off on reinstituting the ban. So evidently the bad guys could have a day of grace to get in because it wasn't so urgent after all.
Well, you say that you saw reports that the speech went well. I think that the point was that I heard that he sounded presidential. I didn't watch it, but apparently he reads a teleprompter very well.
When he wants
to, and he stuck to whatever his advisors had written for him. So, not ranting and raving, as he usually does, made him seem a bit more presidential, I believe.
And that by itself sort of made it unusual, the fact that he did stick with the teleprompter and he didn't go off topic.
Hey, listen, by all intents and purposes, the post-speech postmortem was that he almost sounded presidential in many a quarter, except that, lo and behold, the 24-hour cycle didn't quite stay in the basking in the glow of a not so badly delivered speech because two major stories broke. You guys remember the two big ones that broke the very next day, like.
Which one? There were only two?
There were two major ones. It's all one story, as we all know. The bottom line that we've been saying here at Media Watch, there is one key story that the news media needs to stay focused on, and that's the cyber attack by the Soviets and how close, how near, close, collusion, non-collusion the Trump people were with Russian individuals. That's been, for our estimation at Media Watch, the story that everything else was being thrown out there in willy-nilly fashion, news being bombarded with all kinds of things just so they could inundate the press, the media, the American people with any and everything to take their minds off the cyber attack and Russian connections to the Trump organization. Boom.
I mean, we discussed this before, the misdirection, the volley of tweets and the volley of other information coming out of the White House, coming out of, if not Trump personally, the Trump administration, just to keep the focus off of this issue, which is, to me as a techie, as a geek, when I first heard of it, I thought, okay, maybe they could have done this by themselves, and they just felt safer with a Trump administration than a Clinton administration. But as the weeks went on, you realize that the connections just lead to collusion. At least in my mind, I don't see how you could have focused it to this extent and this accurately, actually, without a little inside help. And where that inside help that's a dangerous question. That's a really dark and dangerous question.
Well, do you really think that there was help, or do you think that just people pretended not to notice?
A little bit of both, yeah. Pretending.
I mean, actual collusion?
If not collusion, at least little beyond not noticing. Little like, well, that's not. You shouldn't go there, but you should go there, but I didn't tell you. You shouldn't try this. You ought to try that, but you didn't hear it from me. That's the type of thing I'm afraid might have been going on there.
Well, two sides to, or two issues that we're talking around. One is the number of intelligence investigations that are trying to focus on whether or not there's any real collusion between the Trump people and Russian individuals.
Right.
Whether it's Russian government, whether it's Russian business people, just Russians, period. Because as a number of other folks have said across the media, the Russian connection from business people to spies to KGB to whomever is so nebulous and so permeable that you could be talking to a Russian businessman and still be talking to a KGB agent.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I see what you're saying.
So the question isn't, were they talking to Russian intelligence people? The question is, were they talking to Russians, and what were they talking to the Russians about, right?
Okay.
And so that's where the whole bit of, but we talk to Russians all the time, and Russian businessmen, and I believe it was Manafort who said, well, those people, they don't wear badges that say we're intelligence agents. So it's a very nice line. I like the line. It really, it's a cool line, but you flip it on its head. Yeah, Manafort, you do lots of business in the Soviet Union, and you represent a lot of folk in the Ukraine, and so you of all people will know that, they're not wearing badges, but they're probably exactly who you think they are. So you can be specious all you want in saying, well, they don't wear badges, so how will we know? Okay, so, but to get back to where we started, the whole bit about who was talking to Russians is where the former National Security Advisor went down the drain, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so when they get a word, which they did, this was the story, the second of the two stories that broke the day after the speech, newly appointed, confirmed Attorney General Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, I think that's the full name,
I believe you're right.
from the Justice Department, he actually spoke with some Russians during the campaign, okay, before the election. He spoke with some Russians. And when that hit, it was like, are we going down another Flynn trail? That, I talked to them about Christmas presents. Oh, no, not that I didn't talk to them. I talked to them, but we didn't talk to them about any campaign issues. So what immediately hit the fan, as you've seen the headlines about the Democrats, at least two major Democrats, who was it, Nancy Pelosi and Charles Schumer, the New York State Senate, our state senator guys, one of our two, said, we think he should resign because at worst he misled the Senate during his confirmation hearings, and at least misled, at worst, he may have perjured himself, which is not very good for the highest law enforcement official of the land.
And if you don't mind, it's not often that we have breaking news here on Media Watch as we tape, but I'm just calling it up right now. Jeff Sessions recuses himself from Russian inquiry.
Bingo.
That just broke. The New York Times posted it 8 minutes ago.
So as we're taping, as a number of Republican senators were coming out for Jefferson Beauregard Sessions to recuse himself, including Darrell Issa, the guy who was big on Benghazi, who wanted to do a lot of investigations, saying he needs to recuse himself just because it's not looking too good. So the interesting thing for me is, does his breaking news recusing himself is his way of deflecting from the fact that maybe he did perjure himself in that testimony before Congress, and so maybe Pelosi and Schumer may be on the right track in demanding his resignation.
What was his exact words? He said he spoke to the Russians in his capacity as a senator, as if there was one side of the brain that didn't talk to the other.
Right.
Yeah. He said, "I'm on the armed forces.
Is it the Air Force?
Yes, and in my capacity there, I talk to ambassadors all the time, et cetera, et cetera. And so that was his way of saying, oh, it wasn't that I was misleading, it was that was in my congressional capacity, not in my Trump aide advisor capacity. So, well, I'm glad that the pressure for his recusal has taken fruit. What I'm worried about is, will that stop them from digging into whether or not there was perjury? Because speaking personally now, the one nomination that I did not want to see approved, never mind all those other crazies that they had up there, including Betsy DeVos, was Jeff Sessions as Attorney General. Because that is totally the worst case scenario for black and brown people in this country, okay? And
Absolutely.
so nobody, I mean, I don't believe, could be wrong, maybe one Democrat voted for him. I think the guy from West Virginia, Manchin.
The person from his state, I believe.
Manchin? No, Manchin, I think.
Okay.
I could be wrong. We can look it up because we've got all this technology in front of us. I believe almost every Democrat
Opposed.
him.
Yeah.
Almost, not 100%. And I think the West Virginia guy, maybe like Bob said, the person from his state. But I saw an headline earlier when I was scanning breaking stuff. Jeff Sessions has made a motion to pull back from a number of cases where the Justice Department were investigating police departments across the country. So that right then and there gives you an idea of where he's going as the chief law enforcement officer in this land. A whole bunch of these police departments need investigating, and that's why the last Justice Department decided to investigate them.
No, absolutely. I'm not surprised at that. We know what the environment is. The Trump White House is not on the side of the people. I don't care what he says.
But he But he does make like you mentioned. He did get applauded for the address to the joint.
Only because he wasn't ranting and raving.
Okay.
So a good friend of mine on Facebook, and he deals. I'd rather not name him because I didn't say I'd put him on put him on the air. But he deals with crisis management all the time, and a lot of the people who replied to him said that they didn't believe the speech, or they had bad things to say about the speech. But he said himself, and he's not a Trump backer, that it was a good speech, and you have to, he didn't say give the devil his due, but basically understand that they're ready to deal with that they know how to get their story out.
A good speech based on what, though? Certainly not on the facts, because his facts were mostly incorrect or exaggerated.
Well, basically, from what I summarized over reading 2 days of summaries on it, he basically said the same stuff he says during his campaign. He just repackaged them in a softer tone of voice. Mm-hmm. So any of the stuff that didn't fact check quite well, because I saw an early New York Times fact checking on some of the speech stuff, and basically some of the stuff that were true, but lots of caveats about highest murder rate since, well, there was a spike between 2014 and 2015, and that spike is an aberration because the previous 10 years the murder rate was trending downwards. Right. So those are the kinds of things that he will say in speeches that makes, you push the fear button. Oh, this country is in the worst state ever. That gloom and doom State of the Union speech. Well, so guess what? I have to get tough. I have to turn this into a military state. You notice all those military phrases he uses? Mm-hmm. This is a military operation protecting the border. Well, what does the guy on the Homeland Security say? In no way, shape, or form will the military be used in our border situation. But this guy actually comes in with I am a Führer mentality. Yes. And I am going to fix all this if I have to do it by fiat. It's not by constitutional means, it's not by, and that's who we're dealing with.
Well, sure, he wants to rule by executive order.
He wants to rule by fiat. But here's the breaking story that Bob just talked about. The headline: Jeff Sessions recuses himself from Russia inquiry. Boom. Politics, and this is an Eric Lichtblau, Michael D. Shear, and Charlie Savage, March 2nd, 27. The Thursday we were pre-taping, they broke the story. Boom. I don't know who else did it.
It running across
the news spectrum. Yes. Facing a chorus of criticism over his contact with the Russian ambassador, recused himself Thursday from any current or future investigation of Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential election. His conversation with the ambassador, Sergei I. Kislyak, came amid suspected Russian hacking directed at Hillary Clinton's campaign. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested in whether or not the Democrats are going to pursue whether he lied and whether there's any
You're
perjury.
looking for the backstory, but then that will take a special prosecutor, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Which, of course, as Attorney General, he can do things about.
I don't know whether it would. They could just refer in fact, I think Schumer has already referred this stuff to the FBI for investigation on whether or not Sessions had lied to Congress or whomever. He just said, I need you to check into this. And you know, Paul Ryan is saying the Democrats are lighting their hair on fire or something to that effect, trying to keep the Russian connection to Trump alive. Well, guess what? Democrats aren't trying to keep that connection alive. The intelligence community with all these leads are what's keeping that story alive, because the other story that broke, not just Sessions, was that that same day after the speech, the Obama administration people, when all this stuff about Russian interference and contacts with Trump's people and the Russians started coming in, they realized they had a ton of material that was going to fall into the hands of the people who it was about.
Right.
And so they just started, as they say, compartmentalizing it as one intelligence guy. What's the guy's last? Vance, the guy who shows up on CNN, MSNBC. All the people call this guy because he's a intelligence guru, because he spent 25 years in the CIA and has done all kinds of books and stuff on that area. The bottom line was that's proactive safeguarding of serious intelligence information that you do not want to get misplaced, misappropriated, and mysteriously disappeared. And so the headline story was Obama folks compartmentalized, squirreled, passed it on, declassified as much as possible so other eyes could see this, so it wouldn't be just one big file that could be burnt. So that's the treasure trove of leads that a lot of these intelligence agents and agencies are following up on. And it's in the best interest of the American people that they do that, despite the fact that Paul Ryan and what's the guy in the House, Chaffetz, the guy who rampantly investigated Benghazi 6 different times, but says, well, we don't have any information now. I don't think we should be doing any investigation. He's chairing the, quote, House Intelligence Subcommittee on the Russian Trump connections.
I just love the contrast in how much investigation went into the Hillary Clinton emails for which there was no evidence.
Chaffetz led that.
Yes.
That's the guy.
Yet on the other side, we have all of the Russian cyber contact information.
Let's
which
drag
of course,
our feet.
Let's not worry about that.
Yes, let's drag our feet. There's no there. Was that the quote?
Right.
What was that quote, Ray? You had that?
Not at my fingertips.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but it was something to that effect. I vaguely remember that. But yeah, it's the contrast and the. I was telling somebody, if you wonder how and I'm talking historically now, how the country got to the point of a civil war, you can just look at today. We're not at that point, but just look at how the divides are. Just look at how one side of the country sees things one way and the other sees things the other way. And we're not at civil war stage, but you can understand how the country could be split. It's astounding that Trump maintains his support despite what we see going on the Russian connections and the way he deals with civil rights issues.
I'm less astounded that he maintains his base of support because they're not listening to anything except what he says.
Good point.
They're not following. The media is corrupt, so they're not listening to the media except for some select outlets like
when you
Fox
make a
News.
statement like the media is corrupt, you have to be careful how you put that out there, because people will hear you just like Trump followers hear him and go, yeah, Donald Trump is right. The media is fake. They're lying. We can't believe anything they say.
And that's what his people are saying.
But
because what he says is gospel to them.
But yeah, the media, some of it may be corrupt. Some of it may be propagandistic. I think Breitbart is propagandistic. I think Fox News, we call them fake news for years because all they do is spew propaganda. Once in a while, they actually give you a real news story, but 99% of the time, they don't. But just the way we analyze Fox News as giving fake news as journalists who actually analyze our show's called Media Watch First because we do take a look at media, folks. And we do have some background and expertise in it. But there's a general population out there that look at news, and if it's not something they like and somebody tells them, well, that's false and that's phony, they're going to believe it because that's what they want to believe. And that's what we're up against. This whole, that Kellyanne Conway phrase, alternative facts, will forever haunt me because she said that so glibly and so flippantly. And it had traction to the point where the Trump people go, yes, alternative facts are fine.
Right.
Because our people have different facts than these corrupt media that Donald Trump calls the corrupt media. And so it's incumbent on us to always try to bring as much light as opposed to heat and try to analyze. Like when I said, for me, and this is a personal statement, but just based on his record and his history, Jeff Sessions is the worst person to be Attorney General of the United States, based on his treatment of black people when he was a U.S. state's attorney in the state of Alabama. Was it Georgia? Sessions, Alabama, Georgia. One of those two. We should look it up so we don't mislead our people. But anyway, and the mere fact that one of his first things is to talk about, let's cut back these investigations of police departments, is just another way of reinforcing a lot of the bad things that this guy stood for that came out during his hearings.
And wasn't he and you were probably about to bring this up anyway, wasn't he the subject of a Coretta King letter?
That's the guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, even back then.
And because he was trying to prosecute black activists trying to register people to vote. And he actually tried to prosecute them and failed, but he tried in good conscience to do that. So he's not the guy that's going to be looking out for black and brown. And the reason why Donald Trump picked him as one of his key advisors is because he was this hardliner on immigration and let's get these brown people out of here and let's build this wall and all those things that Trump was saying. Jeff Sessions saying, yeah, I can teach you how to say that right. And of course, he didn't need to teach him anything. No. All you had to do was keep punching that fear of the other button. That's what Donald Trump did for the entire campaign, and he's still doing it.
But in terms of backing up people or not backing up people who are black and brown, you remember Ross Perot, the third party candidate from years ago, who was hot, then not, then hot, then not. But what sunk him was, I guess he met either with one black group or the other. It could have been the NAACP. But he gave a speech before the group and he kept using the term "you people." You people this.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's part of what sank his campaign. He kept using the same term.
Yeah, because we're not like those people.
Right.
We be different people.
You know who has it worse? You people. And so days ago,
we people.
Days ago, the presidents of the historically black colleges and universities took a photo op with Trump in the Oval Office.
They put the HBCUs under the White House, not under the Department of Education.
Right. That's a scary thing, but
scary.
But that's the way they think about it. But Trump used the same term. He talks about what you people are doing and what you people need, not us as Americans, but you people. So
that's because for Donald Trump, black people are you
people.
Right. Those are the same you people that he put all those anti-rent, don't rent to these people in his New York City apartment
back
buildings.
In the day, sure.
Okay, those are you people that he took out a full-page ad and said, yes, get these wilding young
the Central Park.
Yes, right. Mm-hmm. Give him the death penalty. Yes, his own money, full-page ad. That's his.
We have about 2.5 left.
Okay. Well.
Oh,
yeah. It's look. I.
Do you want to mention Ross before we end?
Ross?
The guy who was just nominated as
Wilbur Ross?
Interior?
No, the Commerce Secretary.
Commerce Secretary, rather. Sorry.
Yeah, that was another major story. I think it broke the night before the speech, where they tied the new incoming Commerce Secretary to the Bank of Cyprus and 2 Russian oligarchs. And the 2 Russian oligarchs are the only 2 other members that are shareholders in that bank.
Right.
And fact of the matter is, one of those 2 Russian oligarchs are the guy who paid Donald Trump $95 million for some Florida property that Trump bought for maybe $40 million, held it for 2 years. Lo and behold, the Russian oligarch said, I need a new home for so-and-so. And he said, I got a piece of property for you for $95 million. And the guy said, yeah, okay, fine. The 45 profit, basically the 45
sounds like
Donald Trump was in the hole.
Sounds like a campaign contribution or a bribe to me.
Hey, look, I'm not accusing. All I'm saying is
I'm not accusing.
We
I'm
need
just
to
saying
look
it could.
into those connections
what is it?
between Donald Trump, his finances, his taxes, the Russian oligarchs. Those are the things that people from Trump's circle, sphere of influence, talking to Russians, need investigating. Mm-hmm. That's why this isn't something that should go away. That's why when Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House of Representatives, says there is no there, I said, talk to me about a $50 million, $45 million, $40 million profit that the man made from Russian oligarchs. But you don't know about it because you haven't seen his taxes.
Right.
30
okay?
seconds.
So anyway, I don't know how we wandered or where we wandered or whether we stayed on target.
I think we did pretty well.
But this has been Media Watch. Thank you, M&N and EVT Educational Productions. I'm Eric Tait.
I'm Bob Anthony.
And I'm Raymond Peterson.
And you should catch us on YouTube.
At Media Watch EVT.
And folks, we'll catch you the next time.